Okay, welcome back to another episode of Courageous Exchanges. I'm Joy.
And I'm Alex.
And as you can see, we have a guest here. So this guest is really near and dear to my heart. We have known each other since first grade. So
15 years.
Or like 34? That's a long time. 34 years is a long time. If you've ever heard me talk about, I was supposed to go into private practice with a friend. It's her. Now she is not a social worker, or she doesn't practice social work. But she is a teacher and she is a mom. And one of the things we wanted to talk to her about was spoiled kids. Her daughter is my fairy goddaughter. And one of the things that I love about your relationship is that you do very much mimic friends. I think whether you call it a friendship or not, your relationship gives very friend. And I think from my growing up, I don't know about you two, but we'll get into that, is like, your mother's not one of your little friends. She don't play those games.
Definitely
Y'all have
not.
like very open and direct conversations and you talk about a lot of things. And for some people that could look like, I don't know, unconventional or like, is she spoiled or whatever. So I just wanted to like get into the things about spoiled kids and stuff. So welcome to our podcast.
Welcome.
Thank
Keisha.
you.
So did I say your name?
Oh, I'm Keisha.
This Keisha. So before we get into the things, what was your childhood like? What were your childhoods like?
Well, I think that my childhood was, pretty similar to a lot of people my age. Like, I grew up...
Girl, we all have different childhoods. What you mean similar?
I mean, as far as the ways, many of the beliefs that our families had around, like, behavior.
Okay.
Like, stay in a child's place.
Okay.
Spoiled, even the term spoiled, right? I don't think that spoiled is a term that we use as much today. But back then, that was a real thing. And I can remember even like, you know, when my little sister was born and like not wanting to spoil her, you know, so that kind of thing. But I think that like I got a lot of attention and love, but respect was a big deal in my house. And so, you know, there were certain things about tone and phrasing and the way that you spoke to the adults in the house, you know, and I think that was like a big sign of respect that I was raised with. And I think that's pretty similar to how many at least Black children are raised. And so, yeah, I think that, again, like there was a lot of attention paid to me and a lot of talking to me and that sort of thing. But respect was a big deal. You know, I responded to my parents with yes, mom, no, mom, yes, dad, you know, no, dad. And, you know, there was never what. Or, you know, when someone called you, you got up and went to go see, you know, what was happening. And, you know, it was that kind of thing. So it wasn't necessarily friendship. I was given a voice because my parents did talk to me about different things happening. But, you know, there was respect, I think, was at the forefront of the way that I was raised. And in my home, those are just small aspects of respect.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you? I feel like I was there for some of them.
Yes, Joy. So my mom was really big on making sure, no, we never embarrassed the family. Making sure whenever we were out in public, we were never those kids that you were like, who's that kid with?
Who raised you?
Right. So it was always making sure we had manners, making sure we were very respectful. But I will say one thing that I did appreciate about my childhood, my mother always made sure we went out and did like, you know, sometimes we talk about like white people doing stuff. I was roller skating, ice skating.
I think I went to the Halloween parade.
We went to
with
the
y'all,
parade.
and I was just like, I didn't even know there was a holiday.
Thanksgiving parade.
Parade for this.
So one thing that I was really appreciative about is making sure that we got to experience things.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to make sure that as a parent that I made sure my child experienced things. Who's very spoiled, and I'm very grateful that she's spoiled.
Well, okay, let's go back a little bit. What do you all define spoil as? Because I will preface this with, I don't think there's anything wrong with spoiling children.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I think spoiling has a bad and a negative connotation, but I don't think it necessarily is a bad thing, especially Black children, because I feel like, in my mind, the opposite of spoiling is like abuse.
Which
might feel very extreme, but like, because I think some of the things people consider spoiling is basic like love.
It is. And respect. If you think of synonyms for spoiled, you're like
synonyms.
You think like rotten, bad, right? And it's like, oh, but why do we take it there? Yeah. And like you said, Joy, giving your kids the more nicer things, is it spoiling them?
Right.
You know? Are we showing kids that if you work for something, you earn it, and now so you may get the pair of sneakers that you want? Is it spoiling them? Right. Are we being their friends, and are we spoiling them by giving them the necessities that they work for? It's a little contract with your kids.
Right, because like I feel like my parents always said, I want more for you than I had. So that might look like better living, better access, or more access, or having just even like things or experiences, like you said, going on trips or to different events. But if you give your kids those, is that spoiling them?
I mean,
what do you think? What do you define it as?
First of all, I don't really subscribe to the term spoiling at all, only because, like you guys had shared, I think a lot of the things that people describe as spoiling are just basic things. I know, I always think back to when my little sister was born, because they always say, like, picking up the baby constantly or carrying the baby around all the time will spoil the baby. Whereas it's so funny that now I have, many friends who have kids, and I'm around little ones all the time. And I'm like, that's not spoiling them. No. First of all, I think that everything is dependent on whatever your beliefs are in your family and what works best for you guys.
All of these things are learned.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't really subscribe to that term at all. I also find it quite interesting that we only describe Black children usually as being spoiled.
Because when I think of, like, what you're saying, like, white kids, and obviously, no. The ones you see falling, I haven't seen a lot of kids, Black kids falling out in the street.
No.
Exactly.
I think that, like, you can say, like, this child is being rude, or this child is not, name the behavior is more so my thing, like, as opposed to labeling someone as spoiled or labeling a child as spoiled. So that's why I don't really subscribe to that whole, spoiled thing at all. But then I also am thinking about what you shared, Keisha, about, like, getting kids things, as an earned thing. And I think that that's also really like a nice way to teach kids that, like, when you do the right things and you work for things, then you can, reap the rewards. But I also find myself kind of doing that dance. And I think my viewpoint is different as an educator, is like, I also am kind of questioning, like, how do we help kids do things intrinsically? Like, how do we build that point? Like, not everything you do is going to get a reward. And I can remember growing up, like, there was that balance in my house where, like, I got a lot of things, but there were also times where it was like, no, what else are you supposed to do? You're supposed to do well in school. What other option do you have? So it's like this dance between, like, expectations that I think also changed in my house at some points. As I got older, it became more so like, no, like, as you're growing up and you're getting, to take on more responsibility and want more things and want more high ticket items, some things that you do, or you're just going to do them because that's what you're supposed to do.
Also, we don't want them to think because you did this, you're getting this.
Right.
I do think, but it's okay to get your kids things.
Yeah.
My very popular opinion, right? I think that it's okay to get your kids what they want. When it's a nice gesture. And I always say we have to remember that a lot of times we see kids and we're like, stay in a child's place, right? But these are little adults. They're little adults. And today they're little. Tomorrow they're in their 20s. So what are we showing them?
How are you feeling the way?
They're going to be 30, right? But it's okay to show them, to lead by example. If I know that it would be a nice gesture to get something for a friend or for a husband, it's okay to get something nice for your child. And then you'll see your children mimic that same thing. Oh, you know what? I noticed my friend was down today. She can use a hug, or maybe I'll draw her something special, right? it's okay to show them that you're going to grow up one day, but I want you to see these examples from now. I don't want you to wait until you're older to not stay in a child's place. I want you to understand, like, this is real life. And also, I want to bring this up too, because another thing.
Go there.
When people, because I said so, right? The whole, like, I think it's also okay to explain to your child what's going on, what's to an extent, right? But why can't I have this? It's not disrespect when kids ask why. They just really want to know, like, why.
Nothing, right.
But growing up, that was a sign of disrespect.
Growing up, it was such a thing. Like, my parents would be like, you talk back too much. I'm like, because I want to know. I just want clarity, and because I said so, or I'm an adult, you don't ask me questions, did not ever feel like enough. I also think it's, like, really fucked up, because the reality is, like, I would imagine that if my mom's let's not talk about my mom. My dad.
Wait, did you tell your story?
What? About growing up?
Yeah.
Oh, no, but it's okay. But, like, my dad was he was a very, like, bullheaded, strong person. And my dad had fought his boss before.
Oh, wow.
Different time, different season. But, like, I'm sure if somebody asked him or told him to do something, told him to do something, I'm sure he had a question why. He didn't get up and do everything he was told to do. Like, I don't think anybody does. But I think for adults, we sometimes want children to do these things. And it's like, well, would you? You ask questions. You seek clarity.
Yeah. And I think
it's part of communication.
Yeah.
It is.
But I also think that just to kind of give the parents some space, Keisha, you could probably speak more to this too, is like, there are times though where I think parents are coming from a place of frustration, right? And I always think about that when I see parents say things like, don't ask me any questions right now, or because I said so. I'm always like, damn, right now you're parenting from a place of frustration. And I wonder what it looks like when you circle back and repair that. Or if you're going to circle back.
That's the part. Because some people, I think there's a lot of growth that adults have made. And there's a lot of things that adults know now, especially who have children. But I still think there are a pocket of folks who don't apologize to children, who still don't think children have a voice, who think they should be seen and not heard. So yeah, the circle back, because you can say sorry. You can say, mommy is having a rough day, and so I know I was short and I cut you off, but, like, what were you saying?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like I'm always dismissing you. I'm never hearing you. That's why kids don't like you. You're a child. Stay in a child's place.
Yeah.
And it's our ego, our pride that is like, no, I don't have to tell you anything. I don't have to explain to you why we're not doing this. You don't need to know. You don't pay these bills.
That's
you don't.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute.
That's right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Because then what happens when they're in school?
That's right.
And what happens when they're around other adults and around other students, and then they're like, oh, your kid is nasty, you know? It's like, no, it's okay to explain to your child. And a lot of people talk about the soft parenting, the gentle parenting. But
would you consider yourself a gentle parent?
Oh, yes.
Like a cotton ball?
What? Yes. I'm very much like Leah. We're not doing, today we can't go to the park, baby. And she's 19 and I'm still like, Leah, baby, you know,
she'll be like, princess?
Yes, princess all day. But you know what? She doesn't let people walk over her. She knows her worth. She knows when she goes outside how to advocate for herself, because all of these things, I allowed her to talk, you know? And Leah, when you get to the doctor, it's okay. Because a lot of times we're silenced as children. Like, you can't talk because it's adults around. No. You see, when you talk about the white kids, right? And it's like, you see them acting out. You see them saying things out loud. And you're like, oh my gosh, they're talking. But guess what? When they go to the doctor, they can tell the doctor what's wrong with them. They can go here and advocate for themselves. And we need to make sure we have that same conversation and make our kids feel comfortable with, we're not starting at a certain age, because then what happens? Okay, now you're going to college. Now, all of those things I told you not to do.
That's right.
Now, when you get out there, you make sure you do it. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And then it's like, but I don't know how.
Because now you're an adult.
Now you're an adult.
But so you had asked me, did I tell my story? And I said no. But I'm hearing it. It's aligning. is that I was told, my mother would say pretty often, like, children should be seen and not heard. And obviously I don't remember all the context of which it was said in, but it was just kind of like this expectation that I did not really have a voice at home. So advocating for myself and like speaking up for myself was very hard. I also went to a school, we went to school together. And so a lot of our teachers did not like, because I would get to school and then I was talking to everybody. I finished my work. It was like, Joy's a distraction. Joy doesn't shut up, blah, 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 blah. But it was because I knew I could. And I'm not saying I was silenced at home, but there were just, I connect questions. Because every time I did, or enough times that I did, or that I tried to advocate for myself, I was met with, the teacher is right because it's an adult. And the adults around me, from family to teachers to my parents, just kind of always felt like they knew more. And like their word was bond and mine wasn't because I was a kid. So like, it was, like I said, it was harder to find my voice. I mean, I even think like in present day, there's situations that happen that I'm like, like I know what to do and to say, but I have to push myself sometimes harder than maybe somebody regularly because it wasn't embedded from young.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that you bring up like the silencing of kids, because I feel like I've had this conversation a few times where I'm like, it's so interesting as someone who's around children and who's around adults who are supposed to be educating children. I always say that Black children are educated to comply.
Yes.
And so oftentimes compliance means silence, or, only say the things that I want you to say. Whereas when I am around white children and white educators, I always say that white children are educated to advocate or to own
and be creative,
and to be creative and to be free and to really step into and explore who they are. And I say it's such a shame because essentially we're teaching kids from 3 and 4 years old, Black children especially, that their only worth or their only contribution should be as a compliant member of the group. Meanwhile, their white counterparts are, fully given the freedom to express themselves. And I know that growing up, that's the way that many of us were educated in schools, especially if you went to a non-public school. And the undoing of that, and the undoing of that now, and as we become parents and raise children of our own, and you like speaking about how you make sure that Leah can advocate for herself and speak to the doctor. I think people don't even realize how far-reaching it is when you raise children to be compliant. Because it's true. What will happen when they go off to school and something happens to them? God forbid, they go to the doctor and something's hurting them. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that your child is equipped with the tools that they need.
And language. So many people don't have language, again, because that foundation wasn't built. Like your parents are the ones who teach their kids the first words. Then school does. And if your parents and your school is saying, shut up, don't say anything, you will be that person that is just sitting around and people are just doing things to you. Life is just happening because you don't even know how to say like,
You don't realize it.
You don't realize it,
I'm telling you, even though I think I did a phenomenal job, right? But one time I asked her to call, I'm doing my thing. But one time I asked her to call the pizza shop. Ma, what do we want? Like, you know what you want to eat. And it's like, Leah, order what you want. And
to this day, I hate calling people on the phone and like calling and like, can I make an appointment? Can I, just give me an app or a website. But I think that's part of it.
It is. It's like, no, get comfortable.
Yes.
Say what you want. Know what you want. It's okay to be indecisive too. And it's okay to say like, I don't know yet. Be vocal. Really say what you're feeling. I think that's the biggest thing, is making sure your kids are able to express themselves so that they know, like, it's okay if I don't know. And and if I do know, let me make sure I can express that.
Right. Do you feel like, with you having a child or daughter and family, and just like from your experience to like growing up, like family also plays into that? Like I'm thinking about people in my family who have had kids, and it's like, don't spoil them. Don't. Why are you answering that question? Like if the kid asks why are you answering that question? Or like, I have a little cousin. She's 16. She's very vocal. She like, it's like similar to Leah. It's just like, it's very much, I'm very much in awe, like hearing them talk and hearing them communicate, because I'm like, wow, like you know what you want. You are very sure of yourself. And I think when there's people of different generations,
that's where the disconnect.
there becomes this breakdown because it's like you like she'll express, my cousin for example, she'll express like not liking something.
Yeah.
And it sometimes with certain people it becomes a big deal because it's like, how dare you vocalize your opinion?
Yeah.
And it's like, she can say she doesn't like something. That's okay.
Yeah.
I would rather her say she doesn't like something than be doing stuff that doesn't make her feel good and uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think it's so, for me, and I'm glad you bring this up, because sometimes I catch myself, because I'm sensitive to tone and I'm sensitive to disrespect. You know, we've talked about this before. I'm around kids often. I do sometimes interpret some things as disrespectful. You know, I do it sometimes interpret, especially adolescents, as being rude or disrespectful. Not spoiled though,
right?
But I'll be like, this what you just said was rude.
But does it feel like, for some of them, does it feel like the root of it is because they were spoiled and they? Because I think sometimes it's like, our spoiled children's the ones that do then are more boisterous, or like the ones that are like, you can't tell me what to do, or like whatever like that.
I don't think not that's what it is.
Okay.
I actually think that it's more so that they haven't been taught the appropriate way to advocate
this
for
is the
themselves.
word I need. Like, are they entitled? Like, are spoiled children entitled? Or does entitlement come from being spoiled? Or does entitlement just come from, like, what's the difference between entitlement, I guess, and like, I know I can advocate for myself?
But I want to say,
okay,
I only have one, but you could have 4 kids, raise them the same, and they're all different.
You're right.
And they all take something different away from the way you're trying to.
People grow up in the same household. I have clients that are always like, I don't know how my brother thinks my mother is this, and I think my mother is this.
You're also catching your parents at different seasons.
That's true. This is true.
But going back to what you were saying with the generations, and so my husband and I are very different because I'm more like, my mom is the let's explore, let's have fun, and he grew up in a household that was like, you can't say anything, you can't do this, but at the same time, he was always outside. But I don't know. I can't figure it out. But either way, when it came to...
He sought his freedom out. He wasn't given it.
And so it wasn't until recently where he realized, he started listening to conscious parenting. And he's like, wait a minute. You did a good job. And he's like, I kept trying to tell her, like, discipline first and love comes later. And I'm always like, we'll lead with love, and if they love you, they will respect you. And if they love you, and I'm a teacher and I believe the same thing, and a social worker. But my kids, I have no problem telling my students, I love you guys. You guys are the reason why I come to work every day. And so I got 160 hours of PTO. But, you know, like,
take your days.
Love my kids, and I let them know that, like, I tell them, and then guess what?
You have a big impact on them.
We have a great relationship. My scores are up, and they're like, oh, I'm like, I didn't teach that, but y'all learned it some way, somehow. If you tell your kids you love them, you lead with love, don't worry so much about respect, because they don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to be that one that gets like, I don't want my teacher to call and say that I was rude, like my mother, that would break my mother's heart, you know? So I'm more of the emotional, and then my husband was more like, no. When it's time to wash the dishes, it's time to wash the dishes. Oh, you can't wash the dishes? Well, what's going on with you? Let's talk about it. Well, I'm not feeling well today. I had a bad day at school. Did you know she had a bad day? Did you even ask about her day before you made sure those dishes were washed? And you know what?
That goes back to the compliance thing. If I tell you to do a thing, do it, versus like, let's explore why you might not be doing it. But then some people might say that that's not how Black people parent.
And listen,
which I also think we I think Black people need to.
We need to loosen up a little bit, because if we look at us and we laugh over our trauma, right? We laugh over the things that are like toxic and oh, you had that problem too, right? When we started, and Alex was like, we all grew up. We all had the same childhood.
Because a lot of us had,
the similar things, like there were just, especially as it relates to like respect.
Yeah. Like I got things, but also like my mom would tell me go play in traffic, which I'm like, oh, you can't, like, you know, like, and I don't, you know, obviously she's not here for me to go double back. I would love to have a lot of these conversations with my parents, but like, I think the thing was like, you're doing too much. You're in my face. I'm trying to like be by myself and just move away from me. But like, how you communicate those things can make your child feel like disrespected. But I think as a Black mom, her thought was like, I got to be stern and I got to be like, so, I don't want to say mean, but like, so direct in my approach that you know I'm not playing with you. Versus like, Joy, I wish she would have said, Joy, I had a rough day at work. My boss is annoying me. I just want to sit here and watch TV and like drink coffee. Can you go play for 10 minutes? And I'm like, okay. You know, like I think I want parents in general to think about the impact that the words that you use and the actions that you have on your kids. And it doesn't mean that being nice and kind to your children are going to make them run over you or be assholes. Because like you said, they don't want to disappoint you. They don't want you to feel like they're bad or whatever.
I think it's true that most of the time they don't want to disappoint you, but there are those outliers. And I do think
of course. I mean, there's, it's not general,
And I do think that a lot of the time that I spend with people are often in times of crisis, like as it relates to a school setting. I'm not a parent yet, so I'm sure that my opinion will change. But I've spoken about this before, and I'm like, there's nothing that breaks my heart more. I don't think it's because I can relate to it in the way that I grew up. Like, I respected my parents. One of the reasons why I respected my parents so much was because I understood how hard they worked. And like, so you talk about like not wanting to disappoint your parents and loving your parents. Like, I loved my parents, and I, cared so much about the way that I behaved because I understood that they were breaking their back for me to have everything. Like, I knew that it wasn't free to go on vacation. It wasn't free to go to the school I was going to. It wasn't free to, do the things I wanted to do on the weekend. So that's why that was a big part of it. So when I'm sitting across the table from, a mom or a dad who are in tears and kind of in a similar situation, it's kind of bringing me back to that time. And there's a kid there who's being an asshole.
Some kids are just assholes.
And of course, you can't unpack it, right? Yeah. There's more to it. There's layers to things and all that. But my gut goes back to that kid. And I'm not going to, like, that West Indian woman in me gets upset, And so I don't go gentle parent or gentle mind. That's not my first thing. My first thing is someone needs to snatch that kid across the table. And that's not good. I wouldn't do that to mine. But I mean, maybe. But I'm just saying that, like, it's work. For me, it's a conscious, it's not my natural lean.
It's funny, I'm laughing because you're like, I didn't do these things because I know my parents worked hard. I feel like I just wanted to like be, and then if I ever was like disrespectful, which I don't really think it was really disrespectful. I think my parents just had a high level of like what they wanted and whatever. But I remember my mom would cry and she would be like, I work so hard to provide you with this stuff and you just don't, you talk back. And I'm just like, like now I hear it and see it differently. But I think in the moment it was just kind of like.
Yeah, I think in that moment when they're working that hard, and it's a different time, right? It's many, many years ago where, the language and the attention wasn't being paid to like how we speak to our kids, how we express our feelings. The resources aren't as many as we have today, financially and all of that. The access. And then you have a kid getting on your nerves and you you've got other things going on in your life too that are probably having you on the edge. It's just like a lot. And so I do kind of feel like sometimes we gotta like shoot our parents some bail because they had it hard. while also understanding that as we move into these phases of life, that we will do better.
Exactly. Right. That's the bigger thing, making sure we don't. It's a lot of times we're like, I would never do that. And then you find yourself falling right back into that cycle. It's like, no. Let me be very aware and intentional with what I'm doing. I think about those outlying kids, the little problem. Because, okay, like I said, I only have one, but I got a classroom of 30. Actually, 81 if I count all of the kids. But there's always that one that you're like, and it goes to making a connection.
Yeah.
Right? Finding that connection, because even it's taking the time to say, let me really figure out, maybe my child doesn't like this, or maybe my child needs more of this and I'm giving them more of this. Not more phone time, right? But it's like, let me figure out what they really need. So Joy, I wanted to talk about just a post that you posted about, the child in
the village?
Yes.
That one. A child that's not felt by the village will burn it down to feel the warmth. And I had posted it years ago when I used to work at this school, because there was a child who, there was a few of them, but one in particular, like every other day almost, it felt like, was like flipping tables, flipping chairs, cursing people out. He was like in first grade. And I'm just like, you could, everybody felt like he's doing this because he's an asshole. And I'm like, it could be more. But I think I don't know that I ever really got to the nitty gritty and the root of his stuff. But recently I've been working with a student, and when I started, like, an adult was like, that kid right there, bad news. And I'm just like, damn.
Yeah.
I've been here for one day and you are already telling me about him. And it just kind of was like that from a lot of people. And we got to spend time together during testing and really like hang out. And people kept being like, oh, you going to be in the room with such and such by yourself? Good luck. And I'm just, because he has put his hands on people. He's cursed them out. And I want to say day 2, I was like sitting and I was kind of like spaced out. And he's like, you okay? I'm like, huh? He's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I said, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I was just checking. And from then, I feel like we just had this relationship where, like, other adults, it bothered because I would be kind to him. And he would be kind to me.
Yep.
I don't have to yell at you. I don't have to, like, be disrespectful. And I think part of that also came from, he did get in trouble about something one time, and he was crying, and he was like, everyone thinks I'm a monster. Everyone thinks that I'm dangerous. And I was like, see him as a monster and you see him as dangerous, you fulfill what he thinks all these other adults think about him. But if you take some time, and even in those moments where he's like frustrating, which are for me now slimmer than with other people. I mean, he be wilding on people, but he wilds on people who wild on him.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you want to speak loud? I can speak louder. You want to say something smart? Oh, I'm much smarter. He said one time, I wish Bill Nye the Science Guy would leave me alone. And I was weak because the guy looked like Bill Nye the Science Guy. And I was also like, you know Bill Nye the Science Guy? It was mad hilarious to me. But also, but like, we didn't have those kind of interactions because I took a moment. And I was like, well, again, if I yell at you, you will yell at me.
Yeah.
If I say something rude to you, you will say something rude to me. But that's not what I want. What's my goal? My goal is for you to learn and minimize or reduce or eliminate all of these behaviors that are disruptive and distracting. How can I contribute to that? Does that mean you need a break? Cool, let's take a break. Do you need a snack? Eat a snack. People are like, every time he does something, he gets a snack. And I'm like, would you rather him eat a granola bar?
Yeah.
Or turn this shit upside down? I say let him eat this damn snack.
Yeah.
So yeah, so sometimes you have, I think when you are an educator, or a parent, because even if it's somebody in your house and you're like, I'm doing all the things I can, then who else do I need to talk to? What other resources do I need to seek for my child? Because I don't think any parent, I would hope, that wants their child to like be miserable or like live a sad life. So, but I do think that people do need support and they don't have the answers all the time. So
yeah.
Call me.
Call Keisha. Keisha got it.
Help them with.
Would you ever offer like? Because you are a social worker, you are an educator, you are a parent, you have done a great job. Do you feel like that would be something that you would ever want to like support people in if they didn't know like how?
Yes.
You should be a doula.
What?
Oh, like a parent coach.
Yeah, but like also like it could be like a postpartum. They got postpartum doulas where you like help the parent like in those first few months.
Let me tell you something
years.
about Joy. Joy protects my life. Okay, I'm like everything I say I'm not gonna do. Joy's like, no, you should do that, and then I'm like, I'm not doing that, and then next thing you know, I'm doing it. Joy, when I got my bachelor's, I'm like, I'm done with school, over it. She's like, you should get your master's. Like, I'm not
She
getting
had 1 year to go. Like, why wouldn't you just go for 1 year?
Yeah.
Well, I was young, and I'm like, I'm done. And Joy's like, no. And then she put her mom on the phone. What happened? I got my master's. Joy's like, you should do this. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. All right, so now I know what I'm going to do with my life.
Go ahead and become a doula.
Right?
But I think there's like these spaces. Like, I mean, I think as an educator, you do it. But we've talked about you doing like consulting because I think there is this beauty that you do bring to education in your classroom. And you hit like she'll sometimes like be on her AirPod and I'll hear her kids and they're like, she's only been gone for an hour. They'll be like, Miss Lakeisha, I missed you. Like, this was what happened. And they like love her. Or one cried the whole day because she told somebody else she liked her gift.
Oh my gosh, never compare.
She said, oh my God, you give me the best gifts. And the other girl was like, what about my gift? I said, Keisha, why did you say that? And it was a meltdown. But like, they don't want to disappoint her. Yeah. They don't want her to feel like she doesn't care. And they know, because they know that she does care. And I see that with Leah also. Like, Leah's like, my mom will be disappointed if I do this. And sometimes it's like, nothing. Like, if I don't text somebody back right away, I don't want my mom to feel it. Yeah. You know, like, she wants to make sure you are always like, team her.
I'm your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
And that's my thing is I want you to know that I love you and I know that you got this and I support you to no end. And whatever decision you're making, I know you're making it because it's the best decision for you.
Yeah.
And I have your back. Yeah. And that's my thing. It's like,
what would you say to a parent? I'm going to ask you multiple questions.
Oh boy. Let me start thinking. Okay.
What would you say to a parent with like a young child who's like, I just want to do my best right now, but I might be like tired, stressed out, frustrated? And then what would you say to somebody who has an older child who maybe they
slipped up a little bit?
They slipped up or they just didn't know how to like get to the place where you feel like, where you and your kid are like, wait, is this what it is?
Right.
We be vibing. Yeah.
Yeah, to the song, actually.
When you feel old.
Right. Like, is it?
Is this one? Or is it like, is it this one?
Is it this or is it? I can't.
With the fingers. Mate,
yeah.
You got to put your fingers out like this.
Complicated.
Anyway, no more of this, right? They said no more.
I still only know how to take a picture like this.
Wait, you're not supposed to do this anymore?
I don't know.
No,
it's
they
millennials.
said it's millennials.
Yeah. You show your age when you do it.
I definitely did it. Socks, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I definitely did yesterday.
So for the ones who have the babies, I will say the little ones, it's not easy. I worked full time.
She was out
and
here.
I was going to school after.
And I know she looks like she's 12. And you probably are like, how does she have a 19-year-old? It's magic, guys.
Right. When I had to tell people, and they're like, you're a sister? Is that your friend? I'm like, I'm not a teen mom. And no.
They're like, wow, she had her when she was 6.
But I will say creating a schedule. Having a schedule. And I don't stick to schedules. But just having that as a layout, as a guide, something to look at and say, you know what? I need to make sure, even if I put my kid on the tablet, just making sure I have a half an hour, 45 minutes. And you're thinking like 45 minutes? I can scroll on TikTok and Instagram easily for an hour. hours, right? So it's like saying, I need to make sure this time is dedicated to just talking to my kid, finding out questions, the 5 W's. Who did you play with today? What did you do? What did you eat? Where did you,
Taking the time out to have some conversation and some focus time.
Because then you create that space where they know that you are invested.
Yeah.
You do care. It's not just because the teacher called. It's not because they got a bad grade.
And it's a routine.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter if your baby is 2, right? Or 1. You're like, oh, well, they didn't go to school. Okay. Oh, which sandwich, what fruit do you want to eat? Oh, why did you like this one? Now I know why my kid likes this color. Do you like the color of it? What is it? So it's the little things that you have to, it's some work on the back end, but it's asking those questions. And then when they get older, school age, when they're older, because teenagers are weird. And you can't figure out.
I don't like teens. I'm sorry.
I always said after 5, you're done.
I've said that, I don't really like kids, 8 to 14.
Right.
But I liked Leah.
I mean,
18 was hard.
18 was hard. And there's never a easy time. Like, you're always going to have to learn something. You're always going to have to listen, when she's 25, I don't know what 25 will look like, But but with the teenagers, that takes more time to me. That's even more of a, because then it's like what did you do today?
Or if you haven't already been doing it, then they're like, why are you doing it now? So you have to break down.
And again, communicating and saying, you know what, I realize that I haven't been doing it, and I want
that accountability.
And I'm sorry that I haven't been doing it because I didn't know. But now I want to know a little bit more about you, and it's okay. And you know what? Maybe we could do a weekend trip. It doesn't cost money to say, let's do a picnic. Let's go to wherever your city, whatever the local city is. Let's just do something different.
Some devoted time to spend together, getting to know each other in not a way that is in response to something negative that happened.
Exactly. All that scrolling, you know what? On Instagram, they have questions that they'll say things to ask your child before they're, or things to ask your parent.
Or even she got me those cards, those we're not just strangers. She was like, if you want to ask these questions to your clients, or when you have friends over, because it does bring out things that you might not organically think of to ask, but could open up this whole door of really getting to know somebody.
Yep. So all right. It's okay to do a getting to know you with your kid. It's kind of cool.
I love that.
That's beautiful.
That. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, for coming out and sharing all the things and teaching us that it's not, spoiled doesn't have to be a negative word.
That's right.
And spoiled, the synonyms of spoiled are not necessarily right. Or synonyms. The synonyms for spoiled are nasty.
And also you can, like Alex said, exclude it. Spoiled doesn't have to be a
it's
word.
not even.
So we're eliminating it.
Yeah, we're not using spoiled.
No.
If there's a behavior happening, name the behavior.
Let's put spoiled and selfish in a box and put it up and then put it away, because I think how we've looked at them.
It's just, it's antiquated and doesn't really fit anymore, I don't think.
No.
Thank you, Keisha, and congratulations on continuing to be an amazing mom.
Thank you.
And we will talk about career plans next.
Let me go to doula school.
Thank you so much for being with us. And remember to live a courageous and authentic life. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.